Functions and importance of a hypothesis. Dear students, we have been discussing hypothesis, and we have tried to define hypothesis. Now is the time to discuss that what are the functions of a hypothesis and why the formulation of a hypothesis is important for your research studies. Okay, since we know that it is really important in social sciences research most of the time to formulate a hypothesis, right? And it is just on the basis of the selection of a research problem, right? So what we are actually doing by formulating a hypothesis is that we are providing a solution to the problem, right? We are suggesting a solution. So that is a presumptive, proposition about our problem in hand. Okay, so that temporary solution is provided just by formulating a hypothesis. Okay, and that's the the function which is played by the hypothesis in the beginning, right? That is a solution which is subject to verification, that would be verified subsequently with very scientific procedures, right? By collecting data, analyzing that data and interpreting that data. So why would we collect data and analyze and interpret that? Just in order to prove the hypothesis, or just in order to test the hypothesis. That may be proved or may not be proved, but we would be just verifying the hypothesis, right? So the function is that's the temporary solution. A hypothesis is the temporary solution for the problem, and then it is the basis for the study. Okay, because our hypothesis would be the center of the focus, right? Is the part of our research study, and that would be leading us to formulate more hypotheses, right? One hypothesis may be leading us towards the formulation of more hypotheses, right? So that is also one function of a hypothesis. And then we may have a preliminary hypothesis, and then we may also have just on the basis of some observation or some discussion of the data gathering, then we would be providing with the final hypothesis, right? So in the beginning, when we are just selecting a problem and we are starting up with a particular procedure for the research study, we may have preliminary hypothesis, right? And then the whole situation is clear and it is made completely understood, then we may have final hypothesis, right? So that could be one function of hypothesis. And hypothesis is the center of the scientific activity, which is research, right? So it may be objectively tested, right? So that is the function of research study, that we are going to with full objectivity, we are going to verify a hypothesis, right? And then our hypothesis would be delimiting our research study, right? Because whatever is the part of hypothesis is supposed to be verified, right? So that hypothesis would be very much giving us the delimitation of the study, that what we are going to focus on as the part of the study, right? And then that would be just sensitizing the researcher that what you are ultimately achieving at the end, right? What you are verifying is your center or focus of the study, right? So that is not only delimiting the research activity, but it is also sensitizing the researcher that what is your priority, what you are doing as the part of your research study. So we need hypothesis, and that's an important aspect of a research study. And our hypothesis is also just guiding us towards the means of the data collection, right? That what is the nature of hypothesis and how would we proceed for data collection, for data analysis, and also for the interpretation of the data, right? So we are focused by the hypothesis to select and to standardize the means for data collection. So that is also determined by your hypothesis. Now, why is hypothesis important? Hypothesis is important because hypothesis or hypotheses are the eyes of a researcher, right? Of an investigator. Okay, so hypotheses are the eyes of the researcher. Then hypotheses is important, because that would give us the possibility to launch a focused research, right? So we would be focusing on a particular research procedure. And hypothesis gives us a very clear-cut, direction, and very clearly, very specific goals to achieve at the end, right? So hypothesis is something which is guiding us, and it is linking together, like how to proceed, where to go first, then where to follow, and finally where to reach, right? So that is actually the linking together. The linking force is the hypothesis, because our research activity is based on the verification of a particular hypothesis. So a hypothesis is the guiding light. That's the guiding force, which is giving us the direction to research, and the direction is basically provided by our hypothesis. And hypothesis would give us very clear guidelines, right? So the greater clarity is created on the basis of hypothesis. When we have hypothesis with us, we would be leading in a very clear way, in a very specific way, in a very narrowed way, where to go, specific, very much directed. So that is only possible with the help of hypothesis. And that's the stimulating of further research as well, because hypothesis, proved or otherwise the case at the end, would also be giving us some ways to explore further, right? So a hypothesis is not only important for the researcher, but also for the whole scenario, the whole priority list, okay? And the functions of hypothesis are also very important, because hypothesis guides us, and that's the direction which is given by the hypothesis.